Hi guys, and welcome back. I hope you've had a really good fortnight and kept positive during any of the tough times over the last couple of weeks. As they say, we need to be grateful for the good times and keep faith during the hard times. But if you have had a rough week, then I'm so glad you are joining us today, because today's episode is just what the doctor ordered. Today you are going to get an injection of love, inspiration, and empowerment. We have a very inspiring and beautiful mum of a child with special needs joining us today. This beautiful mum takes a fresh approach to what it means to be a mum of a child with special needs. She radiates a special energy and shines from the inside out. And I tell you, you are going to love her as much as I do. Today we are talking to Darrielle Maree. Darrielle is the founder of Mums Reborn. She supports mothers to step out of a life of suffering and into empowerment for themselves, their relationships, and their families. She runs transformational programs and mentoring for mothers all over the globe and is on a mission to spread her message to help mums feel happy from within, despite the challenges that are going on in their lives. Welcome, Darrielle.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, me too. It's my absolute pleasure. Now, I'd like to start with your journey as a mother of a child with special needs, because although many mums have similar experiences, every parent travels a different road.
Absolutely. And I've been there. And so just to introduce myself a little bit more about my personal life, I'm a wife and a mother, obviously. I have two beautiful children. I have a 6-year-old son and an 8-year-old daughter. And when my daughter was 2.5 years old, she was originally diagnosed with autism. And so I think following that diagnosis, I was really, not pushed, but I really delved into a very deep, dark place of sadness. I was grieving. I was actually quite shocked at the diagnosis. I think it was something that we really didn't see coming, being our first child. We really kind of, we were new to the game. We didn't really know what to expect developmentally wise. And so I really sat in a place of depression. And I think that was because I felt like I wasn't given a lot of hope. And for me, and I think for a lot of mums, not having a sense of hope tends to just push us into real deep sadness. And so for me, I stayed in that deep, dark place for 5 very long years of suffering. And I found that, the longer that I stayed there, the more that we just kept attracting negative situations and negative challenges into our life. And things just seemed to get worse and worse and worse. And I think internally I was feeling this, deep depression. Yet externally, I was putting on this mask to everybody, appearing that life was fine and, really putting on this positive face. And so externally, I think everybody thought that I was coping really well, but internally, it was the worst feeling ever. I mean, I remember crying day in and day out at home because I was just so grief-stricken and felt like there was just no hope. This was it for life. And so I was really sitting in that fear zone. And so I was so fearful about what the future was potentially going to hold. I was involved in a lot of different support groups and because challenges were going through with their children, and then I would potentially, sort of take on that fear that we might experience that. And I just think my entire being was sitting in a very negative space. And I completely lost myself. All I did was I gave my every ounce of myself to my daughter, really, and my son, of course, and my husband. But my daughter was my biggest sort of stress in those 5 years. We did every diet I could possibly think of. We did that many treatments, alternative and mainstream. We did, we had that many doctor's appointments. I would read around the clock. I had insomnia. I couldn't sleep. I was so obsessed with, I guess I'll put it down to an obsession, because all I wanted to see was this little girl thriving. And I think what happened was, after going through that for 5 years, I finally hit a breaking point, and I was like, I cannot literally fathom going through this for the rest of my life. I was just so incredibly burnt out, so exhausted. And yeah, just the thought of it continuing on, and potentially even, escalating and getting worse, was like my biggest fear. And so, I had this kind of inner calling or inner knowing in my heart that there had to be a better way. And I was just fed up with living the life that I'd been living. And I realized that what I had been living had not been serving myself. And now I look back and realize that it also wasn't serving my family and my husband and our relationship. And I mean, we are all just so deeply connected with the energy that we are giving off. And so I really decided to take on this quest, or this mission, to find a happier, more peaceful life for myself to begin with, because I started to realize this correlation of like, hang on a minute, I want to see, my biggest desire is to see my children thrive. I want to see my daughter thriving and becoming healthier and progressing. Yet, what space am I sitting in? Like, I was sitting in this depressive, sad, constantly crying, negative headspace. And I started to just think to myself, what sort of role model am I being for my children? If I'm wanting to see them do all these things, and I remember back when I was a child, my mother was my world. Like, everything that she did, every feeling that she had, I felt. If I ever saw my mum crying when I was little, I remember taking on that grief myself, and wanting so deeply for my mum to feel better. And so I started to reflect on all this stuff, and I was like, oh my goodness, I feel like I have to make some big change here. And that meant completely stepping in and making big changes compared to what I had been doing. And so as I started to step in and really focus on me and caring for me and nurturing me, I started to notice these big shifts within my children and my relationship with my husband. And they were just simple things like taking a break once a week for 2 hours. And I'd leave the house in total chaos, and I would arrive back in the home, and the home would be as calm as anything. And I would actually have this energy to sit and want to play with the kids, and they would feel that immediately. And this was just one thing that I was doing, was taking a 2-hour break once a week. And I started to think to myself, what if I could expand on this? Like, what if I could do more for me, drop the guilt? Because clearly by me having a break, it's actually benefiting them. I think, for years I sat in this guilt of not wanting to give myself anything or give myself a break, because I felt like, well, my daughter's struggling. I need to sit in that struggle with her. But what I've realized now is sitting in that struggle with her and feeling like I have to stay there is only disadvantaging her progress and her space to be able to thrive, really, because she's feeding off me. And so, yeah, I really started to notice some amazing things and shifts happening within our family. And right around this time, we actually got a new diagnosis for Bella, and that the diagnosis is Rett syndrome. And just to explain to you a little bit about what Rett syndrome is, and I think by the time we got the new diagnosis, we already knew that she had it, because we had researched the symptoms. And we kind of thought that, perhaps some of her symptoms were not atypical of perhaps, autism, although autism's a big scale, I know. But she had a lot of problems with, movement. Bella didn't walk until she was 3 years and 2 months. And so quite a lot of sort of body strength, hypermobile issues there. And so I actually just pulled this off the Rett Syndrome website because I wanted to just explain to you in one sentence, or just to get a vision of what Rett Syndrome is. And so imagine all of the symptoms of autism, cerebral palsy, Parkinson's, epilepsy, and anxiety disorder in one little girl, because Rett syndrome is mainly typical. I mean, there are some boys that are affected, but it's the majority of people that are affected by Rett syndrome are females. And so, to say the least, Bella has a lot of struggles, and it does, I guess, for her, you know, she is nonverbal. She does have trouble with balance and strength in her body. But despite all of this, she is the happiest, most connected little girl that you will meet. And I did not see that happy, connected little girl when I was in a very disconnected, depressive state. And so as I have really stepped in and changed me, I now see, I don't even see those, I guess, symptoms in her anymore. It's like, I mean, they're there, but we choose as a family to, and this is what I teach mums as well in my programs, is that focusing on the story or the negatives or the challenges is only going to create and attract more of those things into our lives and our children's lives. And so I teach and live this life of focusing on the things that we're grateful for, the things that she can do. And I think when you're living from that perspective, they feel that energy. And this little girl is such an empowered little girl and so confident in her own skin, despite all of these challenges, because we choose to focus on the positives. And so, I think, you know, that was kind of that period where I think when we received that diagnosis, normally that would spiral anybody into deep, dark depression. But because I'd already started to nurture myself and realize the importance of that, receiving this new diagnosis it actually did not impact me at all. In fact, it empowered me because I realized where she was sitting at in a really happy place, doing well and thriving, and we were finally seeing this progression in her, and it made me kind of look back and go, well, there's nothing to be depressed about because we're moving forward. We've got hope here. We've got direction. And so, I think, you know, she surprises us every single day with the wonders and amazing things that happen with her and how she progresses. And I really think that is as a result of this newfound life, I guess, change that I've taken on, and these new patterns that I practice every day of positivity and gratefulness and self-love and really nurturing ourselves. And the main thing is, you know, most of us have been on a very big journey, a very tough journey. It's being able to recognize that and heal those wounds. And I think once we can really delve in and release those emotional traumas and blocks, then life becomes so much lighter and more positive. And so as a result of that, I know I'm talking a lot.
No,
it's a big journey.
It is.
Yeah. And so just to sort of, just following that, I decided to, because I started to see these big shifts, I thought, you know what, I'm going to go and study this because I want to actually, I want to be able to help other mums, because if I'm able to step out of this place, and I was in such a deep, dark place, then anyone can do this. And so I decided to go and study holistic counselling. And so I now am a certified holistic counsellor, and I'm now able to help mums to be able to look at their limiting beliefs. What's actually blocking you? What's holding you back from being able to step into what you really desire for yourself and your family? You know, being able to clear out those, I guess, negative emotions, or being able to cope with them and know what steps to put in place to be able to, I guess, get through those, and be able to nurture ourselves, because it's all about really, I know we all hear this analogy about filling our own cup, but really, if you think about it, when we are constantly giving to our family and our children and our friends and everybody else in life, and we're not giving to ourselves, then our cup becomes empty, and that energy becomes so low, and therefore the quality and value of energy that we actually can then give to our families is so depleted that we become burnt out, we become sick. I had adrenal fatigue, I had, skin rashes, hives all over my body, my back, I was in agony with back pain, and even walking to the letterbox was tough for me for a long time there because I was so depleted. And so once we can drop that guilt and start to really fill our own cup and give ourselves some space and nurturing, then everybody around us starts to heal as well. And so, yeah, with that, I then launched Mums Reborn, which I'm sure we're going to talk a little bit more about. But
yes, yeah, I'd definitely love to dive into that. But first, I just want to say I think that there'll be so many listeners that will be able to resonate with your story and your journey. You talk about this depressive state that you were in, and I'm sure many parents feel that similar experience.
Yes.
And I think it's because it's an unplanned journey and you don't know what lies ahead. And a lot of the time, like you said, you're not given that hope that you need. And I think it is common that parents take that back seat and their attention and their energy gets put into their child. And,
yes.
And along this journey, you experience the highs of the highs and the lowest of the lows. And you need to be there for yourself and to work through things yourself and work on yourself in the process. Was there a specific point in time when you realized you need to focus on you? Was there something that just triggered and said, yep, now it's me time, I need to do this for me? Or was it just sort of along the process?
Yeah, no, I think it was after that kind of 5 years of sitting in that place of suffering and realizing that my health was just struggling. I could hardly, as I was saying, even walk out to the letterbox without being in pain. And I hit breaking point, and that was when I went, I just cannot visualize this continuing on. And so that was the point where I started to go, something has to change here because I can't. And, I was also I had chosen to surround myself with other mums, perhaps beautiful mums that were also going through similar journeys with their children. But I sort of got to a point where I realized we're all just feeding off each other here. We're not actually stepping forward. Yes, we're supporting each other with love and we're relating to each other, but I couldn't find, my desire was to feel more peaceful, more calm, and more happy. And I could not find any resources out there where I could, particularly, I guess, targeted towards mothers of children with special needs too. I was finding it really difficult to find those places where I could find information about what to do. How do I get out of this mess? And so that's where my journey sort of began, of like this quest to find, and trial myself, how to actually, get myself out of this place, out of this headspace, I should say.
Yeah. So tell us, where do you find these mums who are like-minded and open-minded and provide that support that you were looking for?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, off the back of my own movement, so I've created this Mums Reborn, which is my movement that I've created for mums, like a community for mothers. I have launched a program called Empower You, which we can go into a little bit, but within that program I have a community in there where I specifically select mums who I know are ready. They're ready to make big change in their life. And so within that community there is so much support and empowerment. But also, I think one other tip for people that aren't in my program, obviously, the first thing that I had to do was have a look at what I was exposing myself to. And so I had to go through everything that I was doing. So, for example, and I'm not saying all of these support groups are not helpful because they helped me for a very long time. I'm certainly not saying that at all. They're full of wonderful resources. But I think I had to evaluate how everything that I was exposing myself to, how do these things or how do these groups or people make me feel after I read whatever they've written or whatever the posts are or whatever movie I'm watching or whatever friend I'm talking to, or every single person and piece of information I was exposing myself to, I actually had to check in and say, did that grow me and make me feel good, or did that bring me down and make me feel depressed? And so for me, it was a process of really evaluating what I was putting in front of myself. And so I had to make a lot of changes. I had to sort of, remove myself from certain groups. But I think by doing that, or you don't, not even completely removing yourself, turning off all the notifications so they're not popping up in your face all day long, and checking in when you feel strong enough, making these decisions based on when is the best time for me to be able to go in there and have a look at whatever these other mums are writing, or and as I said, it's nothing against. I was one of those mums posting those, really depressive posts. I think it serves all of us at a time to be able to vent and to be able to talk through our emotions. It's certainly helpful to be able to get out what you're feeling internally. But I think I was just at that point where I thought, this is not serving me anymore. And so I think it's not even a matter of going out and searching for or finding these places where there's more like-minded sort of uplifting material. But I think once we make that shift and that decision to make those changes, and we're creating new space for new people to enter into our lives. And so what I found was I started to attract all of these new friends and people in similar situations too, but they were at a similar place to me in my journey. And so I think it's more about an energetic shift of like, okay, I'm going to make all these changes because my intention is that I want to start to feel more positive. And by doing that, you start to attract and see more opportunities and places where you can perhaps expose yourself to things that are going to make you feel better from within.
Absolutely. And I totally agree. We all need that space to vent and have a cry and share the load with other people who understand what you're going through. And we all do it and we all need it. But what I love about your message is that it does shift that focus, and it is about empowerment and what can we do moving forward. So can you tell us about Mums Reborn and about the program that you run?
For sure. So Mums Reborn is really, I guess I spent sort of 2 to 3 years really on this self-healing journey, as well as obviously my children alongside me were my biggest priority too. So we were all up there in line with each other, rather than the kids coming first all the time. It was like, no, hang on a minute, we're all a priority here. And so I learnt so much. I also stumbled a lot and, made a lot of mistakes. And so I wanted to really be able to share with mums, because I felt kind of selfish holding on to these wonderful tools that I've learned, and especially through my holistic counselling course too, of being able to really share with mums what they too can do to be able to step out of this suffering and into, feeling more fulfilled within their life, and then the quality of what they're able to give and see and perceive in their own lives changes. And so I decided to create Mums Reborn, and that's mainly because I couldn't find anything else out there that was empowering for us mums. I found, there was certainly a lot of empowerment resources for women in general, but particularly for mums and mothers of a child with special needs. There wasn't anything that I could find. There may be ones out there, but I couldn't find them. And so I thought, I'm just going to create my own. And so I started off just for 1.5 years just sharing. I would just get on Facebook Live. I would just share posts on, we experienced, a seizure in our daughter. Here's how I coped with it after we went to hospital, and, sharing what I did to be able to get myself out of that place. And so I started to build up this community, and then just recently I've launched my first program, which is called Empower You. And so it's a 3-month transformative journey where I take mums on this, quest of really starting off with where do I start? Like, I want to make some changes in my life, but I have no idea where to start. And so my program takes them from, where to begin and with the basics. And then we shift through how to actually create new patterns. And so they say it takes 3 months to be able to ingrain patterns within yourself that you can then continue on for the rest of your life. And so that's why the program's 3 months. And so we move through how to sort of try and eradicate fear and self-love. How can we actually step in and start to heal and nurture ourselves when we've got this really busy life with our children going on at the same time? How can we juggle both? And then I also work through one-on-one mentoring with mothers on how to look at those limiting beliefs, how to work through those emotional blocks. And the mothers that I've been working with so far, they are just seeing miraculous changes within their children, or within themselves, but then it's really miraculous when you start to see it in your children as well, and to realize that power. Because I spent 5 years of pushing every boundary for my daughter, every single boundary. My husband and I had this philosophy: we will leave no stone unturned. And so much stress and pushing for 5 years, and we had very slow progression. As soon as I started to look after me and shift my energy, the progression has been amazing in her. And so I cannot speak about it more, that connection and the importance. So yeah.
It sounds like an absolutely amazing program, and I can definitely think of a few mums at the moment who would benefit from that program and the empowerment and the inspiration and the support and the encouragement. I think it's important to have someone sometimes there to hold your hand through it, because it is that unplanned journey, and to have someone who's been through it before and is able to say, there is light at the end of the tunnel is really important.
Absolutely. Totally. Yeah, absolutely. And I think the community part of it is probably the most important. It's that whole, you can check in and say, I'm having a bad day, what do I do? And then we're all on the same page. So we're not about living in the story. We're not about looking into the past. We're about stepping forward. And so we all empower each other to go, right, what can you do next to be able to step out of this,
Are you able to give us some practical action steps or tools or resources or something that you have used or that you use in your program that parents can sort of walk away after listening to the podcast and, take some actionable steps?
Yeah. So the first 2 very important steps. The first one is to gain support. And so I know that sounds simple in theory, and a lot of us struggle with support. On my website, I might even provide you with the link as well, Rhiannon.
That'd be great.
I supply it's called a low-cost support checklist. And so a lot of us struggle with support, but this is like giving options on how we can actually gain support despite being able to, despite having financial strain, because I know we're all investing a lot in our children. But there are actually free ways that we can get help and when I say get help and support, I mean getting somebody to come in, inviting somebody into your home to give you a break, to look after the kids so you can walk out of the house, or even just sit out in the backyard if that feels better. Being able to have an hour or 2 every single week regularly. You know when it's going to happen. It's going to happen on a Tuesday at 2:00, and you look forward to that time. And I cannot tell you how exciting it is when you know that you're getting a break every week and it's that time and you're leading up to it. You might even have it midweek, because then you've got, or at the end of the week when you know you're going to be struggling more, set it at a time when you know it's going to be more beneficial for you. But the second point that I move on to in my course is about how to utilize that time, because we tend to, and I know I did it, whenever I would have a break in the past, I would, I've just got to nick up the shops and do the grocery shopping. I've just got to return those 10 doctor's calls that I couldn't do when the kids were hanging off me. Or it's so much easier to go and do the grocery shopping without the kids. And you'd go out and you do these 1,000,001 things, and you come back into the home and you're frazzled. You have not rested or, given yourself any space. And so I teach my mothers the mothers in my program, that when we have time out, we actually utilize that time to be able to create some space. So that it could mean just going down to a park and sitting under a tree, and listening to something inspiring on YouTube, not to do with the children, something to do with empowerment, or, whatever, you might like to just listen to your favorite music. You might like to meditate. You might like to go to your favorite cafe and treat yourself with something that you love, your favorite coffee or your favorite cake or whatever that is. But in some way, setting an intention that this time is for me. This is a treat for me. And then walking back into that home. And the biggest thing, I think, is to create awareness around how was the energy before I left and how is the energy now, and how do I feel now that I'm walking back into that home, and how are my kids? And so
Absolutely.
there's the first two. Yeah.
It could be as simple as grabbing a coffee and just taking that time out. It could be having a shower without the kids running in and pestering you and annoying you. It's just that space and that time. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. You just cut out a little bit then.
Yes, I know. I hope it was all caught on the podcast. Now, do you have any non-negotiables? So, parents obviously have this feeling of guilt when they take that time out for themselves. And, like I said, some days we're lucky just to have a shower when it's peaceful and quiet. Are there any non-negotiables that you have to include in your day, in your week, so you can have this positive frame of mind?
Yeah, sure. So there's two things. The first one is setting up my day with intention. And so often when we wake up in the morning, we will reach for our phone and start flicking through Facebook or whatever. This is what I used to do anyway. I can't make assumptions for everybody else, but by doing that, you're actually starting your day giving your energy to other people and what is happening in their lives. You've begun your day not on your own terms, on somebody else's terms or other people's terms. So what I like to do is I set my alarm, and this is hard because it's early, but I get up 45 minutes before my kids. And yes, the alarm goes off and my brain says, I want to go back to sleep because I'm still tired. But I push myself every morning to get out of bed and go into the other room, and I will meditate. So I meditate. This is creating space for the mind and disconnecting from all of the stresses and pressures and worries that we have. So I meditate. I just literally Google on YouTube. Not Google on YouTube, but I go onto YouTube and use a free meditation. So you don't have to buy anything.
Yeah.
There's so many guided ones are the best for me because I find I need that prompting. But whatever works. So I do that for half an hour. Then I'll do some form of movement, because movement is so powerful to be able to release emotional stress. So I just do like 5 minutes of just dancing. And then I do a visualization. So I will visualize what I desire for the future. But I speak in the present moment. And I share this with all of my mums, so I won't go into the depths of that. But it's all about creating a positive intention for the day. And by getting up before the kids and before the chaos begins, that's what we're doing. We're setting an intention and saying, I'm doing this on my terms. And oh my gosh, if I never miss it in the mornings, I feel it for the entire day, because as soon as the kids start yelling out from bed or whatever, you are automatically setting your day up on their terms. And so
I know myself. It's difficult. Yeah, I tend to wake up before the kids as well, and I definitely notice that difference. If they wake up grumpy, it just influences your mood straight away.
Absolutely.
And actually, when you spoke about the dancing, it took my mind back to a blog that you had written, and you were talking about shifting the mood at home, and you were saying that if you're in that stroppy mood, the kids pick up on it and they will get in that mood as well. And in your blog, you were saying that how important it is to change the mood. And you were talking back in the day, you'd be the girl who was the first one on the podium to do a little dance, steal the microphone and do your crazy dance and do a little bit of impromptu karaoke. And, you know, it just cracked me up because you're definitely talking to the right person here. That was me. And, you know, it definitely does change the mood if you sort of tap into that sense of self and you bring that back into the home environment. You were saying that, you know, you become very uninspired, and it was almost like Groundhog Day when you bring the kids home from school and you sort of tapped back into that, just sort of losing those inhibitions and just getting back to how you were before you had kids, because you do forget yourself in the process. And if we don't harness that energy, then it can become very dull and unmotivating and uninspiring environment at home. And so doing the crazy dance in the kitchen with the wooden spoon and pumping up the tunes really does shift the environment and the mood and the atmosphere. And everyone is happier and more positive because of it. And I know that we do it at home. We do it in the backyard and the girls love it and have a blast. And you know, I think we just need to make light of the situation, and I think it's brilliant, and I think a lot of parents probably do it behind closed doors, actually. And if they're not, they should definitely try it.
Absolutely, and it is about breaking that energy. Like, you know, I'm standing in the kitchen cooking and I'm feeling really mundane about it. It's like, how can I change this energy? And the funny, as you were saying, like the kids find it hilarious. Like my kids will, the first few times I did it, they just stared at me blankly like, what is going on? I've not seen this mum before. Who are you? But then they have such fun. Like they love it. And then automatically you've set up a new energy pattern and things flow from there. So, It's really powerful. Yeah. And the other thing I just wanted to share was, excuse me for a second. I'm just going to, it was gratefulness. So the second thing is every morning when my eyes open up for the first time and I wake up, I think about two things that I'm grateful for. And it might even be as simple as, gee, I had a good night's sleep last night, or gee, this bed's comfortable, or oh, it's going to be a sunny day today, or whatever it is. It's got to be something positive that you can be grateful for. And then before you go to bed, the last thing that you do of a nighttime is think of two things that you're grateful for from the day. And to begin with, it's quite difficult because I know for me, I was in a really negative space. So I found it really hard to find things that I was grateful for. But you can begin with things like, oh, you know, I used to focus on my daughter's smile, you know, something so simple that she does every day. And it would light my whole world up just thinking about that. And so the more that we can think about those positive things, the more we begin to attract them in. And so they're sort of my two non-negotiables, the morning ritual and the gratefulness before bed and before bed and when I wake up in the morning.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very important. And with the gratefulness, I think it's about just having something small, you know, even if it's the sun is shining today, you know, just something that can be little and, you know, may seem insignificant, but it is something that has added value to your day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I just want to touch on quickly, in one of your more recent blog posts, you were talking about the word disability and how it doesn't just sit well with you. And I think this can resonate, obviously, with a lot of parents who have children with special needs. Why do you think we need to look beyond the word disability?
Sure. So in my opinion, when I hear the word disability, I feel like it's a label that is given. I feel like the word disability infers a lack of ability within a person, you know, disconnection, and perhaps isolation. Now, look, that's my feeling about what I think the word disability infers. I feel like it almost infers lack, and well, it does, I think, in my eyes anyway.
Sorry, I was just going to say I did look up the dictionary meaning of it prior to the podcast.
What is it?
it says that a disability is defined as a physical or mental handicap, especially one that prevents a person from living a full, normal life or from holding a gainful job. And I think when you read that, you automatically have that comparison of disability versus ability. And, it highlights that difference, and it can marginalize our kids. And, I mean, the word disability doesn't tell you what the physical or the psychological impairment is. It just tells you that they're having difficulty in some part of their life. But then we sort of forget to look at, the ability and what they can do. And I think we need to bring that language of inclusion and diversity and equity and everything, equality, because I think if we start giving the kids the message that, that they have a disability, they'll start to own that label, I think. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. The way that we speak to our children and about our children, they feed off all of it. And so if I feel, we don't even use that word in our home. I choose not to because I feel like it disempowers my daughter. But the way that I see these beautiful children and beings in our world is that they are actually change makers. They have come here to make change in our the way that I perceive it, a very broken world, where we have a lot of illness, we have a lot of violence, I'm not going to go into all the negatives, but we know that there's a lot of struggle happening within our world, and it's increasing. And I feel like our children come in with these ultra sensitive, sensitivities to foods and chemicals and toxins and, allergies. And I mean, this is not only children with special needs. This is other children every child has some sort of sensitivity, or these days, I mean, you look at when you walk into a classroom and you can't take in X, Y, and Z foods, and our children are literally trying to pave the path for us to make big change in our world, and particularly with their behaviors as well. Like, literally the way that I see their behaviors and how it's all unfolded in our home in particular is that my daughter used to display a lot of screaming, crying. I perceived her to have a lot of body pain, gut issues, the list goes on. But all of these things was kind of showing me that she was suffering. And so I feel like she was literally mirroring me and how I was feeling, and I was suffering. So now that I've stepped into a place of healing myself and feeling a lot better and happier, sorry, I've got a frog in my throat. So now that I'm in a really happy place, I don't see her. She's calm, she's peaceful, she doesn't scream all day long. Her gut issues have all but almost disappeared. So there's so many things that have changed. And so I feel that they are our little messengers. They've come here to make change in the world. So I feel like the word disability should be changed to change makers, because they're here. I think the perception is if a child has a disability that we need to teach them to fit in with our world and our patterns and way of being, but I see it as differently. I think we need to learn and be taught by these beautiful beings, because they come in with such big purposes and messages. And so I feel my daughter's purpose is to really transform me and the world as well. And the more that I step into that and allow her to succeed in that purpose, the more she thrives. And so it's quite amazing.
Yeah, oh, that's beautiful. I got goosebumps listening to you. Yeah, it's so true. I definitely believe we need to take a new perspective. And, I mean, disability doesn't, I don't think it's really for that social political view. It doesn't tell us anything about the person. So, we don't need it.
Yeah, agree. Should be taken out of that dictionary.
Yeah. And I think what's important to remember on, a parent's journey is that they don't always get it right, and they're not perfect. Totally. And that's okay. it's a learning process. You know, be gentle on yourself, and learn to forgive yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's the whole thing about my program. It's like, yes, we look back and we realize that perhaps some things that we've been doing haven't been serving us, but it's not about placing blame. It's not about feeling guilt. It's about going, I'm leaving all of that behind and I'm choosing to step into a different place now. It doesn't matter what I've done. I did everything that I did was with the knowledge that I had at the time, and I did my best. And I think that's honoring you for doing your best, and then but choosing to go, all right, I no longer want to live in that space and stepping out. So yeah, I totally agree.
Absolutely. All right, we might head to the 5 rapid fire questions now. So
Awesome.
First one, what is one habit our listeners can implement today?
So I think, I already discussed this before, but I think gratefulness is probably one of the biggest things, biggest game changers, because this is a bit woo-woo, but I believe...
Oh, that's all right. We like woo-woo.
Yeah, woo-woo's good. I thrive on woo-woo now.
Take us there. Let's go.
Yeah. So I believe in the law of attraction, which is what we are feeling internally is what we will attract externally. And so if we look at like when we're living in a really negative headspace and everything seems to be going wrong, it's because we're focusing on those things. And so as I discussed before, gratefulness is one of the biggest game changers that you could implement into your life, which is so simple. You can do it immediately, and just 4 things a day, 2 in the morning, 2 at night. And you know what? Now I don't do 4, I do like 104, because as you start, it can be a bit challenging to begin with, but then the list just starts to grow, and you can even journal it if you want, because that can help. I was going to say,
do you write it down, or is it just something you think of?
Yeah, I actually don't, but I have some mums in my program that do, and they actually look back over that list and go, whoa, look at all these amazing things that are happening in my life. And it's really empowering, especially if you're sitting, if you're having a day of struggle, and you go, oh my God, how can I get myself out of this headspace? It's like, all right, pick up my journal that I've written out all these things that I'm grateful for, and
remind yourself.
Yeah, but definitely the 2 in the morning and the 2 at night, begin there. And then I really feel like, and really I try to teach that if you're thinking about something, so for example, I might think about my daughter's smile, how does that make me feel? And really feel into the feeling that you get when you see your child smile. Because the more you can evoke those feelings and emotions within you, the more you're going to attract wonderful, positive things into your life.
Absolutely. Love it. I'll have to start the 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening as well.
Absolutely.
I usually just do one every day, just think of one thing every day. But I think good. I need to extend that.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
What do people never ask you that you wish they did?
They never seem to ask about the positives. And so I find that most of us grow up in this society where we use our story or our past struggles as a way of feeling like we're gaining significance or value in our lives. And I did it for so long. In fact, I did it throughout my entire life up until I realized that it was not serving me. But when we speak to friends and family, we tend to focus on the negatives, and we will just talk about the story and the terrible things that happened that week or that day, or I'm really struggling with this. And I wish that there was this new paradigm of where people ask you, what's going really well for you today? I mean, I think we would all fall off our chair if the first question that a friend or a family member asked was, tell me about 2 great things that have happened to you today. So anyway, that's a desire that I have, because I really feel like it would change the way that we actually look at our lives.
And I think it comes with that whole perspective change, when we start looking at the positives and forget the disability notion and that, and we start looking at the ability and looking at you as a whole.
Absolutely.
What is one book you would recommend all parents read?
Okay, so there's a beautiful book which was probably at the beginning of my quest for happiness journey that I read, and it really transformed the way that I was thinking, and it's called Freedom to Love by a beautiful author named Hong Curley. The story is actually not, it's not targeted at mothers of children with special needs. Hong Curley is I think she's an acupuncturist and a holistic counsellor, and she taught the whole book. Each chapter is about a different client and their issues in their life. And there's so many empowering stories in there that make you start to create that awareness around the fact that no matter how hard your situation is, no matter what. I mean, there's one story in there where there's a grandmother, a mother, she's now in her 90s, but she lost her husband and her 2 kids to some thug on the street who killed her husband and her 2 kids. And she now has taken this thug into her home, and he now works with her, and she has totally forgiven him, and she helps him, and he is so grateful. And like, it just makes you, I mean, thinking about that story top line, it sounds unbelievable. Yeah, but when you read through how she changed her beliefs around this, it's so incredibly powerful to realize that, yeah, we can flip our beliefs and we can live a happy life despite all of these wounds and traumas and challenges that have happened or are happening right now. And so that was a big turning point for me, was just to see those, because a lot of those stories are a lot worse off than what I ever have been, and just seeing how these people transform and heal relationships and forgive so many people in their lives. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Amazing. What is one of your top 3 unfinished bucket list items?
So my biggest passion over the last, I'd say, 2 years is obviously to empower mums. And so what I want to do, it's on the bucket list, it's going to happen, is create this massive event to celebrate mothers and have everyone come. We have this massive party and we just celebrate our amazingness and everything that we give to others, but also honouring ourselves and just having a really inspiring evening of celebration. That's like my ultimate. It's going to happen. I know it will.
I have absolutely no doubt that you'll get it off and running.
Yeah.
And that's it, because we are so selfless. So to have something like that to celebrate us and who we are and what we give, and I think that's so important.
We need it. We certainly do.
So is this something that you do for just mums of kids with special needs, or is it beyond that?
It started off with I was targeting just mothers of children with special needs, but I'm now at a point where I hear from so many mums that we're all struggling with something or suffering with something in our lives. We all have our own challenges are all as big as our own stuff, right? So it's I now have just sort of in the last couple of months decided to step into really helping all mums, because I feel like even though our situations are different, we're all experiencing the similar emotions.
And that's right. I think too, you don't know what's going on in another mum's life. Like, it could be a relative or something else that they're dealing with in terms of a relationship issue or breakdown or something. So that's great.
Absolutely.
That will be great. Oh, I'll keep my eyes peeled for that one then.
Yeah, I mean, the messaging that I teach is relevant for everybody, for male, female, whoever. But I think I tailor specifically for mums. So it's relevant for all mums.
Absolutely. And if you could only offer one piece of advice to parents, what would it be?
Heal yourself and you will by default heal your children. Maybe not, I mean, I'm making that assumption based on what I've experienced and what I'm seeing in others, but I guess it's not about having that expectation that, if I heal me, my children will completely heal, but it's about healing yourself and seeing progress and thriving in our children as a result. It's so powerful. And so if we can focus on helping and caring for ourselves, it really makes a big, big, big difference.
Yeah, it's all about putting the oxygen mask on yourself first, isn't it, before you help your kids?
Absolutely. I love that one. Love it.
And so where can our listeners find out more about you and about Mums Reborn and the life-changing programs that you offer?
Absolutely. So I have a website. So it's www.mumsreborn.com. And on there I have a blog where I share lots of different stories, and I am in the process, which it will be up very, very soon, I'm putting together a services page which has programs on there and what I'm offering. Everything else is found pretty much on my Facebook page, so at Mums Reborn, one word, and I'm on Instagram and Twitter as well. So yeah, you could find me pretty much at all the socials.
Mums Reborn.
Yeah, one word. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Darrielle. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Look, your outlook is so bright and full of hope, and I think we need more special needs mums like you in the world to generate this energy and positivity and spread it further, spread the message further.
Oh, thank you so much, Rhiannon, and I just feel grateful to be able to hopefully get in front of some other beautiful mums, because I really feel like if I can do this, you can too. Well, mums and dads, of course, but if I can do this, then you guys can too. And it's really not as difficult. I think living in that really sort of burdened, stressful, hard place is so much more difficult than this much more simple, lighter place to live in. And so thank you so much for the opportunity. I'm really blessed to be here.
Yeah, my absolute pleasure. I'm sure we will see you around.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Darrielle. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.